Welcome to the Dalen Show. I am Dalen Flowers. He's Russ Eddins, and welcome to episode number 6 of Cardinals Talk. Today's episode is the Cardinals wrap up. Sweeping the Marlins. We discussed the sweep of that series, and also the two series before with the Yankees and the Rockies, and also displaying a little bit of what's next for the rest of the season for the Cardinals and going into the Rays series. We will also discuss a few things internally about the program. So. Welcome to episode number 6. We're so excited to see you guys, and you're glad you're here. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. Russ, what's going on, man? How you doing, man? How you living?
I'm doing well. Just wrapped up fall camp stuff for Ole Miss, and we start school next week. So your senior season.
Yeah, it's getting real, man. I was thinking to myself a couple of days ago, like, this is my last year of school, possibly. I may do my grad, not decided yet. But it's insane. Just time is flying by. I swear I just moved in freshman year, so it's crazy. But, yeah, things are getting rolling for the two of us here soon. So we're going to continue doing our best to get these out. When school happens, I know I'm crazy busy, and Russ is too. So we're going to do our best to kind of maneuver those things as the season goes on. So just stick with us. But again, appreciate you guys for tuning in. Look, man, last episode, I think the thing that stood out to me about one of our conversations is just us both agreeing that it may have been time to throw in the towel in terms of, did this team have a chance to still compete to get into the playoffs, the wild card? I think at that moment with maybe 3.5 games back. Now sitting here, it was funny because after that episode, I was like, you know what? I don't think I should have said that we should throw in the flag. I think that this team still had some type of competitive spirit that could rally on. And I do believe that, but at the same time, I have to face reality. I think that I always feel that this urge of consistency is going to fall within this team, and my expectations of that fails every single time. And so, just going into it, man, what are your, I guess, kind of thoughts over the last couple of weeks since we've chatted? What do you think's in store for the rest of the season? Do you know, like, just what, if anything, positive looks do you have for right now for this team?
Well, right now, I mean, there isn't a lot to be happy about. I mean, Arenado's out, Donovan's out, Contreras is out. You mentioned the sweep of the Marlins. They won 2 out of 3 there. They lost 2 out of 3 to the Rockies earlier this week. Got swept by the Yankees before that, I think, or maybe after. It gets all mixed up. They're just not playing well enough to be a wild card team at this point. I follow this account on Instagram called like MLB memes or something, and it was talking about how no one in the National League wants that third wild card spot. If you looked at the standings, it was lost like 3, lost 2, lost 3, lost 3. Like every team in the National League just was not playing good baseball, and they had such a good chance to go against the grain there and do something different and win a couple of games, and they really missed their chance. You had the Mets for 10 in a row, and the Reds had 3 or 4 in a row, and I think that window's gone. I haven't looked at the standings in a minute. I've been so frustrated with the Cardinals. I know that, I want to maintain my happiness before I go to school. So I'm not trying to get too involved in what's going on with them. I know the Cardinals are probably dead. Let's be here. They are probably dead. But there are still some things to look out for. Victor Scott's injured, and their depth is really being tested right now. So we'll see how guys like Nathan Church do and how they step up. But I think the Cardinals they're packing it in. We might have seen Arenado in his last Cardinals game, so we'll have to see what the offseason comes and does. But still a month to go. It's possible, but I mean they kind of missed the window, I think.
Yeah, and I love the meme you brought up because it makes a good point that although, the Cardinals have had a rough patch over the last 2 weeks, 2.5, 3 weeks, I think there are other teams that have done that as well. I know looking at the standings right now, there's still 5 games out of the wild card, and the Reds are a game back. So it's not impossible. I just think that I just don't see the strain within the ball team anymore. I don't see a camaraderie that I now believe can get them over the hump. I think there was a point where you could say that, but now, like you're mentioning, so many of the injuries on the team to guys that are key key players for this franchise, it's hard to kind of have that faith. And some of those guys, and I won't name any names, weren't having the best year anyways, but depth is very important. And even when those guys aren't having the best year, that mental leadership, that veteran leadership is important for some of the guys like Mason Wynn or et cetera, the younger guys that may just need that uplifting at times. So I think it's hard to move forward in terms of, can this team compete? But then I asked the question, what begs for this upcoming offseason? What happens? What needs to happen to either move in the right direction, or do they completely rebuild? And I'm going to ask you this, but I know the St. Louis Cardinals. I know they're never going to rebuild fully. I know that they have too much pride to do that, and they don't have the I think, just heart to move on in that direction. But with a month left, what do you think this team needs to do in the offseason, just for you personally, Russ, to see some type of uplift and have hope for the future, maybe even just the future of 2 to 3 years coming, man?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think it's best that they missed the playoffs. If they make the playoffs, I think you're going to see ownership say, come Cardinals Winter Fest, or be like, or Fan Fest, hey, we in the playoffs, we did enough. What we're doing is fine. The fact that what they're doing is not fine.
Yeah.
You can go on a run of 2 weeks. I mean, what was it, 5-6 years ago now? Maybe less than that. I don't remember. They won like 19 games in a row to get in the playoffs.
It was 21.
Yeah, it was 21. Yeah, they won 19 or 16 in a row, whatever it was, and that propelled them playoffs. If they don't go on that historic run, they don't make the playoffs. And I'm not saying it's going to happen here, but if they do go on a Brewers type run, like the Brewers just got off a 15-game win streak, they probably sneak into the playoffs. But that I think that hurts the team in the long run, because then you have management say, we're doing just enough now, we're fine. And the fact is, it's not okay. As far as what they're going to do in the offseason, man, I'm glad I'm not in there. I'm glad I'm not in the position of Chaim Bloom right now, because there's not enough money in the world right now to fix that problem. I don't know. They diagnosed it last offseason as a issue with the farm system. They made some good trades. I'll say that. That's probably the best part of the season was July 31st. Yeah. When they got all that, all those trades. They made some really good moves. I'll give them that. 3 pending free agents gone. You got like 5 or 6 prospects, maybe. I know one wasn't a prospect. He was a little bit older. But I mean, I think you kind of got to find a way to trade a guy like Contreras, maybe. I mean, Arenado. I mean, I haven't looked into it too much, and I think that's something we should look at, down the road. But I mean, there's a lot of pieces that you could move. You got, I feel like Nootbaar, teams will be interested in him. Donovan, Donovan, Wynn, Burleson. I feel like those are kind of like the core 3 for the offense. I know Burleson would be he would be liked by other teams. I'll say that because of his baseball savant. I think it's pretty good. Last time I checked. Gorman has shown flashes of promise. Maybe you ship him off. But you have your core 3, you have your core guys, and I know how much you love Gorman. But and the staff, it's time to call up the young guys and work with them. But I mean, there's a lot of different ways they could go, and I have full faith in Chaim Bloom to figure it out. I like what he's done in the past. I think he can figure it out. But John Mozeliak he's not the guy anymore.
You make a good point. As much as and it's crazy you were saying some of these things, and I'm thinking it's only year 3 in the Cardinals jersey for Contreras. It's only year 4 or 5 for Arenado, and it's crazy to think of the depths of. I remember the exact moment when I got the notification that the Cardinals had traded for Arenado. I remember where I was when they had signed Contreras. And it's crazy that was just, 4, 3, 4, 5 years ago. And now we're sitting at this point and it's talking about where do you go for the future? And it's not, getting ready for a last strong month of ball, competing for the best, best team in the division, et cetera, et cetera. And I want you to talk about it a little bit more, but I have faith in Bloom. And because I've seen what he's done in past stops, I've seen what he's done so far. But do you think do you think the ability to turn it around is possible with Bloom? And if so, do you think it's possible with Bloom and Marmol still as the manager of the Cardinals?
Yeah, I mean, I think having a new his title is what, president of baseball operations.
Yeah.
I think having a new guy like that, it's kind of like having a new head coach at a college football team. It's going to take a couple years. You got to learn the staff. You got to learn how things work. And the thing is, he's been here for a year and a half, 2 years now, as like an assistant type role. So he knows the organization pretty well. I think within 26 probably isn't going to be the Cardinals' year. I think 27, 28 is what he's shooting for with the farm system upgrades and whatnot. But I and correct me if I'm wrong on this if you're watching, but from what I noticed, when he was with the Rays, he operated on such a small budget that he was just kind of used to that. And then when he got to a huge market like Boston, he didn't adapt well enough, and that's sort of why they shipped him off. That's sort of like what I feel like I've always had that opinion, but I've never confirmed it, I guess. But I think this market suits him a lot better than Boston. The ownership isn't willing to make big splashes. They signed Contreras to a 5-year contract. That was like what, second biggest behind Matt Holliday for like, he's getting paid like what, $90 million, something like that. And then Matt Holliday was like 120. So, it's not even that big of a contract in these days. They're not. They don't have a caliber player except maybe Mason Wynn one day that they can go out and give a 10-year contract to. Let's be honest here. But Chaim Bloom is the kind of guy that's going to work within some good financial constraints or small financial constraints. He's going to get good efficiency out of guys, and he's going to do that. I think I look forward to seeing his first draft as well. I want to see what he does in the draft because they've taken last year they took Tennessee pitcher. Year before that, Weather Holt. Year before that, Chase Davis. So they've taken 3 different positions the past 3 years, and they're not really loading up on one position or anything. So I'm curious to see what he does there. But ultimately, I mean, I'm excited for change. I'm happy to see a new face in the front office there. I like Chaim Bloom a lot, and I hope that my faith is well placed in him.
I love everything you said. I think that it makes a good point of the difference of markets and knowing the history. I wouldn't even say really throughout Mosaic whole term, but definitely over the last 7-8 years that the unwillingness to go splash some money in free agency to go get a guy when you have a team that maybe is only a piece away from competing and making the World Series maybe consistently every year. And I think that is not only lacking in terms of building the confidence within the clubhouse, but the fans see it. And the notice of lack of fan passion in Busch Stadium now is not for no reason. It's not just, coming out of nowhere. They're not winning. They feel the kind of scapegoat relationship between the team and the front office, and they want more, and they deserve more. You think, why are Cardinals fans so adamant about a couple of years being down the drain? Well, that's because this is one of the most storied franchises in all of baseball. This is not something that ever should be the headline or story for the St. Louis Cardinals. And so, I hope and believe Bloom can do it, but collectively, does the whole front office buy into what he's trying to do? And I think that's a bigger question as well. Are they willing to give him the true reins and keys to kind of do what he wants to do in St. Louis, which then hopefully make them successful, but getting the correct young pieces and also having the depth around those guys is going to be important to get to the point like you're talking about, maybe 27, 28, to finally get back in the realm of competing at a high level for this team.
Yeah, and it's a good point you had about the.
Go ahead. You're good.
Sorry, my thing was freezing up. Yeah, it's a good point you made about the system or the front office not really buying in what he has to say. It's kind of like when they fired Mike Schilt a few years ago. He didn't buy into the system. He wasn't the right fit for the Cardinal way. Sorry, my thing's lagging like crazy right now. And then you got Bloom coming in here, and I would assume he fits in the Cardinal way. But the fact is, I want someone who doesn't fit into that system right now.
Yeah.
I want a new face in there, a new mindset, because the Cardinal way is about adapting. And when 2001 came around, 2002 came around, and the Oakland A's did what they did with Moneyball, which, by the way, I'm the biggest fan of Moneyball you're ever going to find. I freaking love that movie and that idea. I have the book. The Cardinals adapted. They took tradition, they took the stats, the Moneyball side of things, and they did both. And now you're seeing a shift to these bigger contracts. The secret's out. Everyone knows about analytics and their metrics, and they adapted to that really, really well. But I feel like they've stalled out, and they're not doing that anymore. They're not looking at it like the Tampa, like the Rays do, like the Yankees might do. They like the Dodgers do. There is a certain way to do things nowadays, and the Cardinals aren't doing them. They're trying to make their own path. But the fact is, the path has already been paved for them. The Dodgers, the Diamondbacks a couple years ago. These teams figured it out. The Phillies took a step from being a mediocre baseball team to a class of the NL. They're up there with the Dodgers, in my opinion, of the best front offices in baseball. Well, obviously, Dodgers are a step ahead. But, you know what I'm talking about. And the Cardinals haven't adapted like that. They haven't done the Cardinal way, which is just adapt to survive. And I'm hoping that Chaim Bloom comes in here and says, hey, we need to keep adapting or we're going to die. And that's what they're doing right now. They're falling to the bottom of the league. The Pirates are well below them in the division in the North Central, but I mean they're closer to the Pirates as far as skill goes than they are the Reds at this point, I think, and it's really sad to see.
It is, and I love that you say the skill part at the end, because you look at the teams that are competing, and the Cardinal way is, it's time to adjust and do things differently. You can't do the same things that you once did 15 years ago and expect changes and expect success. And while the other teams in your division in your league are spending the money, or doing the things, or adapting, or creating the correct culture to get better and fit in with today's baseball. I think it's also harder to do when you're in St. Louis and you're losing. This is not just a normal market that if you're losing, that a free agent is going to necessarily want to come to. But when the Cardinals are doing what the Cardinals have done in their history, then that makes it a little bit more objective for to sell a pitch. But I'm really excited about Bloom. I think you made a good point about so many different things. He has the experience in a smaller market in Tampa. Has the experience in a big market with Boston, and I think that's going to combine well with what he's going to be able to try to do in St. Louis. Look, Rays coming up. What are you kind of hoping to see out of the Rays series coming up? I know we haven't been watching too much over the last few weeks, but just what are you expecting with the upcoming series? And just overall, what do you think is going to happen throughout the next couple of games for the team?
Well, I'm interested to see what Nathan Church is going to be able to do. Not a very good first 3 games. He's really he's a negative player at this point, as you'd expect. I mean, he's top 30 prospects, but that's a big leap to take, especially at this point in the year. But I'm excited to see him. I think he could be a pillar of the outfield at some point. Especially if you trade a Newbar type guy. I think Church is the one that you would see step up. I'm hoping to see Gorman return to form or continue his good play. In this last stretch, in the last 9 games, he's got a 104 OPS, or 104 weighted runs created plus. So I look forward to see what he does to continue to lag. I look forward to seeing what he does coming up. I don't think we're going to see Andre Palante in the series, but I'm hoping to, once he gets, back to his turn, I like to see how deep he can go in the games. I don't know the starters yet, but I look forward to seeing the rotation this weekend, and they need to go deep in the games. So I look forward to seeing what they do there. I love Burleson. Always look forward to watching him play. But yeah, I mean, a lot of young guys to watch for this weekend, and I hope that they're able to pick it up and just end the season on a good note.
Yeah. Rays coming up starting. You guys will probably see this on a Friday, so I say this is today that we're recording at 6:35 p.m. on that Thursday, and then the Pirates and the Reds after that. There's opportunities, if this team wants to try to find it to get together, and honestly, I wouldn't even be mad if they went after it. I'm at the point now where you just want to kind of not get into the playoffs like you talked about earlier, and just focus on being adapted to what's next in a few years. Um, but we'll see over the next couple of weeks. I think the next couple of weeks are going to be really important for this team. I think they have the ability to showcase some of the young guys and what they do really well, which is going to be important. You want to build that cohesion in the utility guys for the future. I think when you think about some of the guys that are not going to be coming up like JJ and et cetera, where are they going to be able to fit in? And so I think in a way, some of these injuries may be a blessing in disguise to fit in new pieces for guys and understand what may be the landscape for next year for this team. So we'll see, man. Appreciate you guys tuning in to episode number 6 of Cardinals Talk. Like I said in the beginning, subscribe if you're new. We hope you enjoy it. Leave a like, leave a comment, and we'll see you guys next time. Take care.